Okay, interesting thoughts. And finally, we'll hear a clip by David Zukor.
How do you not just fund a one-to-one, but how do you maintain it?
Yeah.
And you can do it at one school, but is that the answer?
Right.
So it's great that Stillwater has had the experience of having done that, and they've, I'm sure, learned a ton from it.
Yeah.
But if you can't expand it to all students, then is it something that's sustainable? Is it something that's viable?
Right. If it's going to be a endless pilot project for just a few schools, that's not so great.
Right. And Edina's in that place now where they have, done it with, I think they're doing it with ninth graders.
Mm-hmm.
But the question, remains: what happens next year? What
Right.
happens 5 years from now?
Right.
What happens for everybody else? So, there's a couple things that we're looking at here. One is we're really looking down the road, and we just finished our 5-year tech plan that we have to submit to the state, and we used it as a real opportunity to look at where do we want to go and what do we want to accomplish in the coming years. It's probably more of a 3-year plan than a 5-year plan, but the state calls it a 5-year plan.
Okay.
How anybody plans 5 years out with technology, I'm not really sure.
Right.
But we are looking at the viability of what if we said to kids, whatever you have, bring it to school.
Yeah.
And we'll make that work. Now it's going to have certain basic functions, right? I mean,
right.
We can't have one kid have a maxed out gaming laptop and another kid brings their cell phone
right.
and say do the same work.
Yeah.
But if we have some basic expectations and kids bring the tool that they're comfortable with, that they use at home,
mm-hmm.
and then say, okay, now where are the gaps?
Right.
Who are the kids that don't have something to bring? And let's provide something for them to use.
Right.
That seems like it might be more sustainable.
Yeah.
Much there. Now, one complaint is that it's not as robust. So like our high school teachers are, would say, I'm using Publisher, and now you want me to use, the Google Docs
right.
word processor. It's not going to be the same.
Right.
And there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
We will have to address those challenges.
Yeah.
There's also some subject-specific software that we would have to find a way to put on machines.
Right.
For example, our 8th grade world geography class extensively uses GIS.
Oh, okay.
And that's not a web-based solution. That's a client-based software, and it's pretty
processor intensive.
It's pretty processor intensive. So we'd have to make sure that every kid's machine could run it. We'd have to look at the licensing for how do you do that, because you got to take it off at the end before you put it onto the next group of kids' computers. And
so for stuff like that, you probably would still have some kind of a set of carts with
probably
laptops that you would bring. But if it's only certain subjects that are doing it, you can probably manage that a little better.
That's right. So there are still, there's still a lot of questions related to it, but I just think it's going to become more and more of an obvious solution as more and more kids are going to have devices.
Right.
As networks become more and more kind of fused together,
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you walk in and you go, oh, is there wireless here?
Right.
At some point in the not very distant future,
it's all going to be assumed. It's all going to be just there.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right.
And so bringing your device from point to point isn't going to be problematic.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing it from home to school and all that, it's just not. It's going to just make sense.
Yep. It's going to flip onto the cellular networks and then flip back onto the local school networks, etc.
But how long is it reasonable to wait for that? Is one of the questions that we're dealing with. If we can do that in 2 years, is it reasonable to wait 2 years to put devices in kids' hands?
Right.
And what if it's more than that? What if it's 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time to hold out. So we're looking at a transitional solution too. We don't want to go invest in. We have 10,000 students. we don't want to go invest in 10,000 machines
Yeah.
for say 2-3 years and then say, okay, we can throw those away now because now kids are going to bring their devices to school.
Right.
So some very interesting points from Dave Zukor and all three interviewees. So that's it for what I want to do for a deep dive into the interviews. And next we'll just move on to a few final thoughts on the Prezi.